Because Hi, this is America Francis. We're here with Steward Growth. I'm the Director of Operations, and Michelle Williams and Lisa Wayment are also here with me. They're important members of our team, and we're going to discuss several things during this Lemons, When Life Gives You Lemons event. That is a discussion about difficult transitions and unexpected events. And as we've gotten warmed up for a minute, I've been talking to Lisa about a lot of different things that are going in her life, some heavy things, and maybe she'll summarize, and just feeling like it's hard sometimes, I think especially as a mom, to get everything done that you feel like needs to get done, important things, too many things to do in too little time.
I think it's an important thing to remember that as moms, we feel we have to be superwoman all the time. And we need to recognize that we get to be human as well. And we get to have our bad days. We get to have things that happen to us. And just like when life gives you a lemon, you have to figure out how to find the gratitude in what's going on in your life and things around. As America was kind of talking, we were talking a little bit about what's been going on in our lives. And I kind of started, and I've been without a car. My car's in the shop for over a week, and getting ready for Christmas. It's really hard when you can't leave the house. And thank goodness for online shopping. But I also have a son who's going on a mission for our church. He gets set apart this Sunday. So we have been on countdown of trying to get all of his stuff done. And then my phone got
leaving for 2 years, and you won't see him.
Yes, he'll be gone for 2 years, and we'll have communication with him once a week while he's out in the field. Hopefully, he's going to Argentina, so he will be out of the country. And so we've been trying to prep for that and get all that done. And then my daughter threw my phone in the hot tub 5 days ago, so I've been without a phone. And because my phone's paid off, it's not on our insurance plan. And I'm waiting to get my son's phone. And so I was like, oh, I can wait 20 days without a phone. But, as not only a mom, I'm running my own business and doing social media and marketing, and I'm doing websites. So that's just not a thing. I tried to use my iPad and try all these different things, and it's just not showing up the way it needed to. Thankfully, my brother had a phone that he had kept. And so I was able to use that, and I have that for 12 days. So I have a transitional phone, which is such a blessing. So now I can at least communicate, because my watch that I have that I've been doing all my messages on, it actually hasn't been sending me all my messages. So yeah, it's been fun. My watch has been I'll call on my phone trying to make things right. And it actually goes to my phone that's not working. And so it will call, and the call goes there, but if it goes to their voicemail, I can't actually hang up because I can't use the screen. So I was on someone's voicemail for an hour yesterday. I was trying to get it off, and there was nothing I could do. So I put it in a separate room. So I was like, I don't know if they're going to hear me yell at my kids. I don't know what's gonna happen. And I was laughing so hard, and it was just this is my life right now, and it is okay. It's just one of those things that I have to feel it, recognize that this is just what it is right now, and then find the things to be grateful for as I'm going through those trials.
Oh, wow. My dad just joined by phone. This is Lisa and Michelle, Dad. And we're talking about getting overwhelmed by a lot of really difficult things that hit you at the same time. And sometimes you just look at your life and you're like, what is this? How did I get here? And so to catch everybody up, recently I noticed in an email that I had to move immediately. So I had to find a place, and I'm moving, and it was really unexpected. And I've also been dealing with some difficult people. So I'm having a tough week too. And I was thinking about that great book, Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. I guess it's Alexander. sometimes you're just like, can't I stay in bed today? Do I have to adult today? Is like, what adult can handle this stuff for me so I don't have to do it?
You know what's funny? It's kids too, because my son woke up and he was really upset and he was like, Mom, I don't have the emotional capacity to get up and go to school today. Can I please stay home? And I was like, you know what? You've already had your mental health day this month. I need you to go to school and just go through it. Just, you got this. You can do it. You know, text me if you need me. You got this. Well, he went to recess and someone slammed a basketball into his face on accident, trying to like push it, pull it back this way and like shoot. Well, it didn't go up. It just went forward. And I was like, well, maybe I should have given you your mental health day because you're home now.
Oh, goodness. And sometimes you are just like, haven't I done my quota? Like,
Yeah.
uncle,
Like Mom fell.
maybe. How could you possibly predict that? But sometimes you just look and you're like, can somebody else have a turn? I think I'm learning lots of great and valuable lessons, and I just need some downtime or a rest or a break or a vacation.
But there has been some positives. I don't think I realized how attached to my phone I had gotten. And I don't realize how like unpresent I had been for my family and for the people right there. So now that I recognize that, oh my gosh, I feel less stress. I feel more connected to the people in front of me and not so detached. And I was realizing it was that time on the phone. So I am grateful that this time that I've had without it, I recognize that maybe I need to set my phone aside and only like designate certain times during the day that I check it, so that I'm not always constantly like trying to rush and like do what someone else wants done, but then like just take a breath and be present. And so that's been a good thing. And my house has gotten cleaner. Not having a car.
I know that looking for the bright side helps. Yeah, definitely looking at those things to be grateful for can help when things are really tough like that. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Michelle, while you're on for a few minutes?
Well, I just think it must be something in the air. We've been down to one car for 2 weeks and they don't know where the part is or when it's going to be there. So Lisa, I think it's amazing that you can just laugh, because sometimes like that's the point you get to of this is just comical. Like this is the point that we're at. But one thing
my car too. It was expensive.
But I think it's one of those things that we have gotten to the point with our girls, because normally they have different activities and things. And I'm like, what is absolutely necessary? Like, what do we absolutely have to do and what do we not? Like, so we've been able to prioritize that way. So like you were saying with your cell phone, Lisa, and America, you shared a little bit about what you're going through, but it's been really great to just prioritize of what absolutely needs to happen, who absolutely needs to be where. And if you absolutely have to be there, great. Who can you ask for a ride? Because somebody else has to be over here too. And so for me, it's been a good lesson as far as asking for help and prioritizing, because it's like, I can't do it all on my own. But at the same time, what do we absolutely have to do? And then how can I make that happen?
You know what I love that what you said, Michelle, is that you had to learn how to ask for help. And I think sometimes when we get in these things as a mother or even as a father, we think that we have to carry the load ourselves. And whether we are spiritual people or not, there is a place that we can go and we can like have those burdens help to be carried with everyone else. And when everyone knows there's a problem and we work together to fix it, or we reach out to people. And I mean, that's what Steward Growth is about, right? When you have a problem, it's reaching out to Steward Growth and saying, hey, I have this issue and I need help finding a resolution. And then learning how to find not only the positives that are happening, but also learning how we can function until that problem is fixed.
Sometimes we do look at social media or, whatever Christmas movies, and we think everybody's got it easier than I do. And it's kind of nice to reach out to this community and say, I'm struggling, this is tough. And other people are like, yeah, not having a car is tough. Not having a phone is tough.
Michelle, that's a long time to go without a car, like only having one vehicle for a family. And so, and when you have kids, it's the truth is we have put ourselves and inundated ourselves in all of these different activities, which are great, but at the same time, how much of that keeps us away from like the priorities of home life as a family too. And so sometimes when we're able to like step back and look and it's like, oh, well, you know, I mean, I thought that was the one good thing that COVID did is it really like helped us realize, wow, we're just running to run. We're just putting everyone in everything to be a part of everything and everyone. And we love them all. But at the same time, it was like, well, we're not prioritizing the most important thing. And that was our family. And so it's always good to have a reminder every once in a while, even though it's not fun.
I'll tell you, I was only without my car for a couple days and I was so glad to get my car back. I was like, oh, I love you so much, car. I'm so glad you're back.
I feel bad because I'm always like, this whole week, it's like, Kyle's like, oh, we have this, there's a firefighter dinner, you should bring the kids and there'll be Santa and stuff. And I was like, well, if I have a car by that point, and it's like, well, if I had a car, and it's not like, I mean, we could rent a car if things were really that bad. But the problem is it's just, I don't want to spend the money because I'm cheap.
Well, renting cars is expensive.
It is. And the thing is can I get by? Yes, I can. Can I steal my little son's race car that has a muffler broken and you can hear me from a block away? Yeah, I can if it gets worse case scenario. And it will be okay. And so now I just have more of a list. Instead of just going right when I feel I need to go get it done. Now it's like, okay, I gotta get everything prepped. And it's like, honey, let's go on our date. Let's go drive it around and get some stuff done.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So what kind of support have you found, Lisa, as far as, I mean, you start with family, you have neighbors, you have church people. What other resources do you have when you face these types of problems? You need a ride, you need a whatever, just someone to chip in.
I'm really not close to a lot of people in my area. Like I have friends, but like my priority, I've kind of like reevaluated and kind of like really cut down like the time I spend with a lot of people outside my home. And so I really just rely on right now more of like family. And I have like 3 or 4 really close friends that I know if I just need a vent, usually that does it for me. I used to be a little bit more maintenance, but I really don't need a lot. And I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky person, just in general. So I can, and I don't know, like I've got to spend a lot more time with my son who's leaving on his mission because he has to drive me around, or we have to go get stuff for him, or so it's just created opportunities. And so I do complain a little bit, but at the end of the day, like I'm okay. You know what I mean? If it really came worst case scenario, like I could go rent a car, but there's really not a lot of people around here that I would call. I mean, I probably could and they would help. I know they would. I mean, they're good people, but I just don't have anyone that like is really close by me that I would really call and ask for a lot of help.
Yeah, I think back in the day, people used to be in communities for a long time and they maybe were more interconnected. And it sounds like these days when everybody's moving frequently and far away and you're maybe not around your family, it can be hard to find those types of people and forge those deeper connections where you could ask for help when you need it. Maybe sometimes people pay for backup, maybe they're going to care.com to have someone help with rides for their kids, or Uber, or I don't know. whatever food services, they pick up food instead of asking someone they know to help. Maybe they're just trying to solve those problems with technology or with,
Yeah. Well, we live in Utah, right? And living in Utah versus living in other states is very different because in Utah, a lot of the families all live close together. You have relatives, down the road, you have them 15 minutes away, you have them 30 minutes away. We're out of state. A lot of the times, either way is wrong, but a lot of the times the way people live is when kids leave, they leave and then they go somewhere else. They're not necessarily living next door. They're not 30 minutes away. A lot of it is there's a little bit more distance. And so I think it's hard, especially if you are someone who doesn't have family here in Utah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be hard when you're needing to have someone because people have their family here and that's their main source, where out of state, they rely a lot more on their church members that are their family or their friends that are their family. And I don't know, Michelle, you're not in Utah, so maybe you can tell me your opinion on that. If you feel the same, if that's maybe true for your point of view. But I found when I lived in Albuquerque one summer with my aunt that it felt like my family wasn't my family was my neighbors. There was a lot more community with my neighbors. There was a lot more gatherings with my neighbors. It was neighbors helping neighbors and not neighbors just helping family and not really knowing their neighbors.
Yeah,
and
I would
so
agree. I would agree.
Yeah. And so it's very different. And so it's like, I wish I could tell you that, I used to try and I did all these things and I just got exhausted. So, but my community is my family. And that's mostly because where I live, my family is very close. But if I was out of state where I had been for, 3-4 months and I got to see a different perspective, I would say that, how I would handle this would be different if I lived somewhere else because my family wouldn't be close by. It would be me having to ask and hopefully have that community or family within my neighborhood that are my neighbors versus my family, my immediate blood relatives.
Do you see your family? Someone in your family every week?
Uh-huh.
Every day? Yeah.
I talk to my family almost every day.
Wow.
Whether it's my husband's family, I'm really close to my husband's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk, we work in the wood shop sometimes. We built picture frames, we do crafts. Mm-hmm. He's met me through the years to go Black Friday shopping with me. He, when all my kids were babies, he would come and take my older kids so I could sleep with my baby and have naps. And so when my husband would be at work, he would come and do my dishes.
Wow.
And I mean, my father-in-law is like the sweetest, most serving man I've ever met. And then, my mom and dad live 30 minutes away and I don't see them as much, mm-hmm. but we reach out and we communicate. I talk to my brother almost every day. So they're my lifeline. My husband, I talk to all the time.
Good.
Leave.
Are you trying to talk, Dad?
What's that?
Oh, I thought you said something. There was some static on the line or something. Do you have any thoughts?
Dad's eating his lunch.
Oh, this is my mom.
I didn't know whether the camera was on or not. Looks like
the
it's
camera
not.
is not on, but this is a discussion and you're welcome to share your thoughts.
Well, we're in a good place, so we're just listening to you guys who are not in a good place.
Here's the
thing.
Okay. Here's the thing. You're about to transition through some really big changes too. And sometimes it can be difficult to do big transitions even when they're positive. So my parents are also going on a mission pretty soon.
Oh, very cool.
The papers are in. And so they don't know where they're going. And that's kind of an uncertain time. And then they've got to prep and go somewhere and they'll be there for 2 years. So that's a big change in the way their life's been going. They'll be with all these people and have to
We-
find resources and have new problems that they haven't dealt with.
We have had changes in our life. We moved to Hawaii. We lived there. We had a baby in our living room. We moved to Missouri. We lost a job. Our house burned down. I mean, we have had some transitions that are unexpected.
Well, this is the forum for you to talk about some of the things you learned and some resources that helped you get through some very difficult times.
Well, I'd say the spirit helped to calm us down.
I have a friend who tells me that things are working out and everything's going to be okay and things, you know, I just have this feeling, America, your life's great. Like it looks kind of messy right now, but it's all working out. And having that kind of message is really helpful.
You know, I think that's the hardest thing is sometimes, so funny story. So I was walking in Canada, I was going into this convenience store and I was trying to figure out which bathroom to go into. And I couldn't see any signs. And I was like, okay, I think I'm just gonna go to the one on this right. And it was like, I just had this voice tell me, whoa, back up, like just back up. So I walked out and then I came back around and I saw that they had posted them like really high. They were like up on the very top. And these are like 10-foot high openings. And then it was like up and I was going to go into the boys' bathroom. And sometimes I think when we're really in a situation and we're too close to it, sometimes it's hard to get that outward perspective of like what it is. And as much as I wouldn't have been in danger other than probably just really mortified with going into the wrong bathroom, I had a moment of clarity where it was like, maybe sometimes my perspective is too close and maybe I just needed to sit for a minute. I need to sit for a minute and back up and look at the bigger picture and realize that, okay, this is hard because of this, you know, and recognize that that hard thing isn't everything else in your life. It's just that one thing. It may impact all of these other things, but it's just one thing. And there's A, that we can be grateful for, and B, we can be grateful for. And when, you know, I've worked a lot on myself over the last 2 years, and I've really come to love and accept and respect myself for all this hard work I've been doing. And I can tell you, this is the first time with all the big things that have been going on that I feel like I've dealt with it in a way that I'm proud of.
Yay, what a nice feeling.
It is, but the thing is it took a long time and it took a lot of self-reflection and a lot of things of realizing that, you know, every time I thought that it was the end of the world, when I went through something hard, it was just a beautiful beginning to something new. And it made me stronger. It made me more resilient, and it helped fine tune what I felt was really important to me. And with that, I have a poem I was telling America. We're actually we put this on my son's watch we're giving him for his mission. It says Good Timber on it. But it talks about really how we forge ourselves. It's by the hard stuff. So it's called Good Timber, and it's written by Douglas Malloch. And it just says, the tree that never had to fight for sun and sky and air and light, but stood out in the open plain and always got its share of rain, never became a forest king, but lived and died a scrubby thing. The man who never had to toil to gain and farm his patch of soil, who never had to win his share of sun and sky and light and air, never became a manly man, but lived and died as he began. Good timber does not grow with ease. The stronger wind, the stronger trees. The further sky, the greater length. The more the storm, the more the strength. By sun and cloud, by rain and snow, in trees and men, good timbers grow. Where thickest lies the forest grove, we find the patriarchs of both, and they hold counsel with the stars, whose broken branches show the scars of many winds and much of strife. This is the common law of life. And I love that, because really every single time our branches break and we hit these difficult storms and whatnot, it's just forging us for something stronger and a force to be dealt with and reckoned with within our lives. And then we get to use that for good in other people's lives. And I love that. And I hope, you know, as we go along in our journeys and deal with all of these lemons that come along, that we can remember that, you know, in those moments, we're not going to feel strong all the time. We're not. And we're going to have to find the good and the gratitude, and we're going to need to pray to our higher power. We're going to need to look for those things that can bring us peace until we can get through it. And it's okay to be sad about it. There's no harm in being sad, but are you going to sit in your sadness, or are you going to let that storm continue on when you could really be looking for the rainbow and seeing that there's some good things that come with that storm? And that with that will come growth and new grass, and your limbs will start to grow, and, you know, your blossoms will start to come if we allow it.
Like the forest fire that opens all the pine cones so that the new trees can grow.
Yeah. And so it can be a beautiful thing. Whether it's a small trial or whether there's a lot of like big difficult things. It's going to be our perspectives, and it's going to be recognizing that it's okay to cry about it. It's okay to have whatever experiences we need. But, you know, for me, you know, in my religion, like for me, I go to my Savior. That's my higher power. And when I get down on my knees and say, this is the emotion I'm experiencing, this is what I'm feeling, and these are the emotions that are related to this situation, and I want to give those to you. You've already done this ultimate sacrifice for me, and I know that because you already know and have dealt with these feelings and have done all these hard things for me, I know that if I give them to you, that I'm going to be able to move forward, because I won't be carrying them alone anymore. And not only that, you're taking it and you're gifting me with peace. And so I've had many experiences on my knees where those burdens have been taken just by talking and just truly saying, this emotion I'm giving to you, and visually picturing myself giving it to him, and allowing that peace to come and letting that gift that he gives me of knowing that everything's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And it can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, if it's not okay, it's not the end, right?
Well, that's the thing is it could be if you want it to be. you know, sometimes it's perspective, and sometimes it's remembering that a lot of my trials are not because of me. A lot of my trials are from other people's choices.
You gotta go.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, well, we're leaving, but we're taking you with us.
Oh.
Okay, Mom. Just
I don't
mute
know.
yourself if you don't want us to hear you. Great. Stay with us. We're glad to have you here.
Anyways, but I think the thing is I've allowed I've had this experience this time that's been really positive, where I've been able to work through it. But I look in the past where I've held on to that thing, and I've allowed it to eat me up inside, and I've allowed that experience to be who I am. And even though it wasn't because of my choices, I let that person make me feel like that is who I was, because I wasn't strong enough to take a look, a step back at the bigger picture and recognize that those feelings and the things they were trying to do to me, I allowed them to make that my reality, when really, if I would have stepped back and just said, I am who I am, and I know my intent, I know my heart, I know what I tried to do, I could not have, fixed this. I probably still can't fix it. I haven't been able to fix it in years, but what I can do is recognize that their choices and their actions and the way they act doesn't have to reflect on me, and it doesn't have to be my reality. And if I want to give them that power to make my life that miserable, man, that sucks for me. It
This is
doesn't suck
when
for
Travis
them,
would bring up our favorite book, Loving What Is.
because it doesn't affect them. They don't care. They don't care. And so what it comes down to is, Kay, are you going to take the time and make your reality about you, what you have control of, what you think about, where you're going to, put your energy and time into? Or are you going to let the perspective and the things that are going on because of other people, be your reality? And I've done both. And I'll tell you, it sucks. And I think we all know it sucks, because I think we've all been there. And the hardest thing I ever had to do was take responsibility for my side in it. When I thought there was no responsibility on me, and I finally had to realize, oh, well, for one, I wasn't staying in my own lane. I was getting involved in saying things about other things that were not my business.
If you look for it, you will find it.
Yeah. And so it was like, I looked for other people's problems to help solve and do and fix, because I didn't want to deal with my own. And when I finally took the time, and I have taken the time to really fix myself and to love myself and to recognize that because of that, I can find joy through the hard stuff, and realize that I know it's not the end, because there was a lot more harder things that I've done and dealt with. And the difference is I have a relationship with my Savior. The thing is I'm not looking to everyone else to fix my problem. I'm looking inside and saying, okay, I know who I can give this to once I've identified what the problem is. And I
you
know
wouldn't
that
have that relationship if you didn't have those trials. And you
No,
probably
I
wouldn't pick the trials, but when you look back, you're like, well, that was a useful thing, even though I hated it.
Well, we've talked about it on one of the other things, is when my daughter died. That was a devastating point for me. And I had used physical exercise, which is a great thing and a great tool to cope with my emotions. And so I would shove them down, I would work it out, and I would move on with life. But I would never, ever. So when I was stagnant, I couldn't sit with myself. I couldn't sit in a car for 5 minutes by myself, because my mind was so chaotic, and I was just in a horrible place. And then when my daughter died, my hips were all messed up. I had separated my pubic bone. I couldn't roll over in bed. I was doing physical therapy just to get to lay on my side for a year. And I could walk and I could do things, but I was in pain. And I had all of this pain in my stomach and my hips. And I started looking at natural methods, and they're like, Lisa, you hold pain in your stomach when it comes to sacred things. Your daughter was a sacred thing. So your pain is more than likely related, and all of your stomach issues is more than likely related to her death. And I didn't like hearing that. But then it was like, okay, so you're saying I have work to do.
Uh-huh.
I can't just talk about it with someone and I'll feel better. It made me feel better for a minute, but it never fixed the problem. And so when I finally started addressing those things and I couldn't work out, I finally started learning some mental resilience. And it's really, it's taken me 7 years. She's 7 now, would be 7 now. And so it's taken me a long time to really go from I don't wanna to I'm gonna. And
7 years is a really long time too, to be
Yeah.
carrying that.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is I didn't realize how many layers I was holding on to. And my daughter just opened up this Pandora's box of emotions and anger and hurt and all of these things that I thought I was okay with, I wasn't okay with. You know, I had some sexual trauma as a child, and I thought I was okay, and I was able to talk to my mom and dad about things, and it wasn't their fault what happened to me, but at the same time, you know, I had a lot of feelings, and they were there and they talked to me and they loved me through it as I tried to work through that. But my daughter's death really was like a keystone of forcing me to go back and deal with this little girl that I had separated from myself, that had been hurt,
Yeah.
and not looking her as part of who I was. I didn't want her to be my identity, and so I kept her separate. And so I finally had to recognize and realize and put all aspects of things that had happened to me that were good and bad, and realize that that was all one person. I couldn't stop, you know, like pull that
You
piece
are
out of
still
me.
the little girl too.
Yeah, yep. And it would, like, I would always talk about that situation in third person, almost like, oh well, she, when that happened, she this.
Yeah.
And it was never really happened to me. I always separated myself mentally from that because I didn't want to deal with it. And so this death has forced me to open up and really deal with all this pain and all this hurt. And it has been hard on my family. It's been hard on my kids. It's been hard on my parents. It's been hard on everyone, because there's been times I have taken it all out on them. And luckily, they've given me a lot of grace as I've done this, to be able to really recognize that, you know, this was just a part of the journey and the things that Heavenly Father needed me to learn. And I hate losing her, but I've loved what I've learned because of that loss.
Yeah.
And I am a better person. And I can tell you, for probably the first time in you know, my 41 years on this earth, I think I'm 41. I really love myself. I don't remember how old I am, but I can tell you, like, I love who I am becoming. I love that I can recognize the things that I have done wrong in my life, but I recognize that I also recognize that I have done a lot of good, and that I can hold on to that good, and that can be my story. And those trials and tribulations can be just the things that got me to where I'm at.
Well, all of that really soft, tender stuff can help you be closer to other people when they're there for you. Some of that attachment stuff, if you keep yourself with a big emotional wall, then you don't feel those same feelings of comfort and acceptance. And even with yourself, getting to know all the different corners and aspects of you and appreciating those pieces so that you can accept other people, you can accept yourself. That's really important work to do.
It is, you know, and it's funny because I always thought that if I did something wrong, that I had to be punished. Like, I had to sit and I had to think about it, and I had to mourn to high heaven, and you know, I just had to wait for this feeling of forgiveness. But I mean, we weren't meant to come down here and be perfect. We weren't meant to be anything more than just have an experience where we can actually start to acknowledge and recognize the good from the bad, and what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, and all these little things. And when I started recognizing that, you know, this is part of my experience, and I share this a lot, but I tell people all the time, you know, sometimes you're going to be my trial, and sometimes I'm gonna be yours. So hopefully we can be patient and love each other enough that we can recognize that, you know, that is what the human experience is all about, is learning to give people grace and recognize that, you know, everyone wants to say, well, they should have done it this way. It should have been this way. And it's like, yeah, but they're human, and the whole purpose is to recognize that, yeah, that would be nice if they did it that way, but apparently they weren't taught, or apparently they're not in a place, or they're going through something that's not allowing them to create that space to handle things that way. And then when we can look at that, we can give empathy. And we can give empathy and we can give forgiveness. You know, it releases us from anything that ties us to them or that situation. And, you know, unfortunately, sometimes that means we have to cut ties with people, but sometimes it means that we just move forward and we say hello. And sometimes it means it just forges a closer bond. And, you know, I love my friends so much. I have a couple friends that I'm really close with that aren't directly my family, and they call me on my stuff. You know, I'll call sometimes and be like, "Oh, this happened," and they're like, "Yeah, what about this, Lisa?" And I'm like, "Oh, don't say that. Don't point that out, because then I have to acknowledge."
That's the
that was
challenging part of
me.
love, right?
Yeah.
There's the
But that's
support part and there's the challenge part.
Yeah. And so I've kind of moved away from the people in my life that will always tell me that what I want to hear. And I've found the friends who will tell me what I need to hear.
Yeah.
And as much as it's hard, at the same time, I love to grow and I love to learn. And I love that I have the people around me that are going to help me do that. And they're not going to criticize, they're going to validate my feelings, but also recognize and make me look at a different perspective and maybe how I could have handled it better, or maybe how, you know, I need to move forward in a different direction, or my thought process could maybe be widened and my perspective is a little too skewed because I'm a little too close and I need to back up and maybe see the bigger picture.
Yeah, you definitely see a lot more complexity and nuance as you get older. Sometimes when you're a child, there's just the right and the wrong. And when you start getting a little older, you can see that all the people are important to the story. You would not be the same person you are if things had been different. And the villains in the story are necessary. When you look in a lot of the Bible stories, they're kind of the bad guys that are convenient to dislike, but you can't have the stories without all of the different characters, and we can appreciate all of the different characters in our past, in our ancestors, in our communities. Sometimes we find ourselves in a problem-solving situation where there's a lot of polarity, and it's really easy to go us versus them and to be like, you guys are just I'm not a big labeler or name caller, but just like, mine's the right way and yours isn't. That's not constructive. We really have to accept that there are lots of different kinds of people and they're valuable, and we can find a place for the people. And also, you know, there are the boundary things too, like keeping yourself safe. But I think you were talking earlier about kind of having these parts of you that you don't want to look at and acknowledge and interact with. And it can be really valuable to look at those deep, dark parts of yourself that you don't like and just have a conversation with them and accept them and love them. It helps us to interact with other people, and it also just helps us to get a better understanding of the human condition, that we're not just these perfect caricatures or masks or whatever. We're complex people, and we have that range of emotions and experiences that gives us the depth that we need to grow. It's hard to understand the dark things and the negative things if we've never had any pieces of those to relate to.
It's true. And you know, sometimes I think draw the line in the sand and say, oh, I will never do this. And how many times, America, in your life you've said, I will never do this? Have you not done it?
Oh man, I'll tell you, sometimes you see the things that your kids do and you're like, I know where you got that from. I recognize that facial expression. I know that phrase that's come up before. My kids used to laugh at me. I'd say something and they'd repeat it. And, you know, sometimes they use it at just the right moment and you're like, dang it, they're using my own
Yes.
stuff against me.
Yeah, and the thing is because when we draw lines in the sand and then we make those mistakes, sometimes I did this a lot in my life. I would listen to someone complain about someone and be like, oh, well, they did this. They should have done it this way. And I'm never going to do that. And I never do that. And then when I did it, I was like, oh man, I really wish I would have had empathy for that person at that time, because now I'm in the same situation. And how can I ask for empathy when I just crucified this person because of, what they did? And I started to really step back from trying to be involved in those kind of conversations and just be like, I don't want to be judge and jury.
It happens a lot when you're a parent.
Yeah.
Because you remember when you're a kid, you're like, my parents did this, that, and the other. And then you're a parent, you're like, well, now I know why my parents did this. And wow, my parents did a lot.
It reminds me, do you remember there's like a little thing, I hope I say it right, but it's like when you graduate from school in your 20s, you have your experiences. In your 30s, you try to find out who you are. In your 40s, you don't care about anyone else anymore, and you just kind of do your own thing. Whew. And great plum there. No. But I think the life experiences and the time that in your 20s that you have in learning and making all those mistakes, and then in your 30s, you kind of start retrospecting and looking at those things and then like, maybe I could have done better. And then in your 40s, I think there's a level of grace you start giving yourself and other people, and you kind of step back, and it's easier to see that it's just one situation. And we've all been there. We've all done that. We've had a lot of life experience, hopefully by that point, that's, got us there to where we can be a little bit more understanding, and then we can kind of stay in our own lane and just be like, look, I won't take this on for you, but I'll listen. I can sit with you. I can hear you. I can, if you ask, I can give you my perception. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what are you willing to do to fix this? And, I love that about myself now, that I don't take on everyone and the world and try to like fix that. Even my kids. The other day, this is the craziest story. It may not be crazy, but for me, it was like, are you serious? My son was trying to make cereal, and he had the milk in his hand, and he goes, Mom, can you pour the milk for me? And I said, okay, well, let's look at this. You have the milk in your hand. You have your bowl in front of you, and you're asking me to pour your milk. Does that make sense? Well, I want you to be there for me. I need you to do something for me, so like I feel loved, kind of thing. It was kind of that. It was that kind of moment. It was like, you know what? I know you know how to pour your own milk, and the milk is in your hand. All you have to do is take off the top and pour it. So I'm going to have you pour your own milk. But if you need some quality time with me, or if you want to do something after you have breakfast, let me know. I can be there for you. But me pouring your milk isn't really going to give you what you need. But if you need my attention, I'm here. And it was a very powerful moment for me, because all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh. It is, but it was like, for me, it was like, I did this for my kids for a long time. I would go when they were holding their milk, and I would go and take the milk from them and pour it. And I would take away the opportunity for them to pour their own milk. And I just thought, in life, I don't want to be that person who's taking away the milk and pouring it for them, because what about next time? I'd like to sit with them while they pour their milk, and I'd love to be there and have that conversation. But to take that milk from them, what does that do for them?
How old's your oldest?
So I have a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
So 19 years ago, the kind of mom you were, and then all of this 19 years of mothering you've done, and how that changes us as we learn how to do that role, how to live that role.
Well, your parents can probably speak to this, but you're tired by the last one.
My parents had 10 children.
Oh my God.
And so you were reading that
Rockstar.
thing about trees fighting with each other, and I was like, yeah, we all had to kind of struggle for our piece of the sunlight.
And the thing is it forced you into a force of nature, because America, you're a hard worker. You and I don't know your life experiences, but I see your value in what you do and like what you want for yourself. And I see that determination, and you do it. There's a lot of people who want things and they never go out and do it. And it's one, they're scared, or two, they just don't know how. And I'm going to plug in Steward Growth again. That's what we're here for, right? But you know, that's one thing that I've really been impressed with you is you go out and you do what you want. You get what you want, and kudos to you for forging your tree so strong to be able to go and figure out how to do that, even when it's hard.
It's nice to hear that.
You're welcome. But I think we all need to do that. And that's what I think community is all about. I mean, and that's what we're trying to build at Steward Growth, right? We're trying to build a community of people who can come together, that they know that they have support. They have places they can go, like these facilitated group chats, to where if they're going through something, they can find friendships. They can find people who can relate to them with what is going on, and it can help them to move forward.
Yeah, Steward Growth has done a lot for me. And at the beginning, I thought it was really important that we each consider ourselves clients. And that's been really rewarding to see. Even Travis, the one that really introduced me to this, has done a lot of growing and has benefited from the community and the emotional support.
Yeah, I can tell you, you know, when I met Travis and he brought me into helping with this, I wasn't in a good place. I wasn't in a good place. And the people who know me best could tell you where I was a year ago, or 6 months ago, or 3 months ago, or 2 months ago, or 1 month ago, is all a different person. Because now that I've hit my strides in realizing what I'm capable of, and that I have the power to move mountains for myself, and I have the capability of helping other people move their mountains if they choose to. Wow, it's powerful. You can do great things when you can finally accept and love yourself, and you can put that into your business. You can put that into yourself. You can put that into your family. And, you know, I do feel bad for my 19-year-old because he was my guinea pig, but he, you know, the first child is everyone's guinea pig, right? And they have
I'm a guinea pig.
responsibility. You got all the responsibility. That's why you manage so well. But it's one of those things that, you know, your first one's your guinea pig. By the end, you know, you learn along the way, and the things that you were so stressed out about your first child, you're just not as stressed out by your last one. And you're just like, okay. And, you know, we were at a restaurant and we were all eating, and my husband said to my daughter, she was 2 at that time, if you don't eat that, or you can't have that, or something to that point. It's like, if you do that, you're going to get in trouble, kind of thing. And so everyone sat there kind of quiet. And then my daughter did exactly what he said not to. And she ate, I think it was like, she wasn't supposed to eat another piece of bacon or something like that. It was like, you're going to be in trouble if you eat that bacon, kind of thing. Everyone else needs to have their pieces of bacon. And she ate it. And we all just sat, and everyone turned to my husband, and he's like, oh, well, it's not that, it's not worth the fight.
Wow, you have to be so careful with those responses.
I know. Well, and the funny thing is my son was like, oh, we would have been killed. We would have gotten a spanking. We would have, you know, all these different things. And you just kind of laugh, and you're like, yeah, you probably would have. And the thing is some of that discipline is going to help you, you know, go further. And by the last one, it's like, hey, yeah, we got to be better with this last one. But there's also a knowledge of, you know, it's not the end of the world either. So it's trying to find that balance always. and forever with every aspect of that, of what's important.
Do you have any ending thoughts before we wrap this up? I really enjoyed having this time with you today.
Let me see. The greatest gift anyone can give themselves is to learn to love themselves and to accept the good and bad that culminates who they are. And when we can do that, it is so much easier to look outside and sit with people and love them, give empathy, and recognize that we are all doing the best we can.
Are all doing the best we can, aren't we?
We are, and we
And
recognize
that's enough.
that. Yeah, and when we recognize that, we really find peace. We find peace with ourselves. We find peace with others, and we don't have to be angry. We can let it go, and we can find happiness with what's going on. It can still be hard. We can still cry. We can still have those moments, but we don't sit in those moments as
It
long.
can be really useful to just look at today. How can I feel peace right now today? I don't
Even
have
in
to.
that moment.
Mhm. I could stress about tomorrow or yesterday, or I could just be here and be happy and appreciate everything I have right now.
Yeah, they say some of the greatest things you can ever do is write down 5 things you're grateful for every morning,
Mhm.
and send 2 thank yous to whoever's out there every day. Like 2 people that affected you, or like you're grateful for, did something for you, and send a message. Or send a postcard, send a letter, whether it's something. So you do your 5 things of gratitude, you send 2 thank yous out into the world, and then you find something that you can do to thank yourself for even if it's just being present in that moment, or just breathing, or just taking a second and just recognizing that. And when you do that every day, it really can make a difference in your attitude and your outlook. And you're putting compassion out into the world, and you're going to get compassion right back.
I believe that. It's nice when you put out a lot of gratitude. Good things happen.
It does. And sometimes it takes time. And especially when you're going through the thick of it and you're really like changing who you are and whatnot, a lot of people leave your life.
Yeah.
And the ones who are really your friends, you find out who they are. They stay. And sometimes they go and they come back, but you really start to value not quantity, but consistency.
Mhm.
And the knowledge that, not everyone has to be happy with you or be your friend, and it's okay. It is okay. And those hard things are only things for right now. And we can step back and look at a bigger picture. In the long run, it's just going to help us be a better person and learn how to deal with things better for the future if we allow it to.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad you
No
were here.
problem.
Okay, I'm gonna sign off now. Come
Okay, have a
join
good
us
one.
next time for another discussion about lots of important and interesting things, and we love to have that conversation with you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.